Week 12 picks. Let's start with Arkansas at Alabama. Bama is around a 3-touchdown favorite. Could be 20, could be 21 and a half, depending on where you look right now. It's the 3:30 game of the week on CBS Eastern Time for the kickoffs here. I cannot get that stat line out of my head from the LSU-Alabama game. That rushing statistic, cannot get it out of my head. Utterly fascinated to see how effectively they'll be able to run the ball against Arkansas. To me, it's all about start for Alabama. It's the kind of game where if they get up early, Arkansas is probably not built to throw on them and come from behind. Probably not. But then again, you say the same thing about LSU, and it didn't matter because they never got margin on LSU. And they were favored by 28 in that game. They're favored by 20 here. The model looks at it. The model likes Arkansas. The model actually qualifies Arkansas as being one of our best bets of the week. I laid off of it for personal reasons. Just feel I laid off of it. We don't have to bet literally every game the model keys on. But Brian Robinson and Trey Sanders, they're about what's left for Alabama at running back right now. This goes to show you again why on this show we say never stop recruiting running backs. This summer, Alabama was so, air quote, loaded at running back that Keelan Robinson saw fit to transfer to Texas. And now Keelan Robinson would probably be a feature back if he were healthy himself at Alabama. That's how quickly these things can change. So here's what I'm feeling on this game. I am feeling a little bit more explosivity in the passing game this week out of necessity. I certainly think they'll run for more than 6 yards. Don't know how much more, but I think they will. I think Alabama's going to end up winning. Don't know that they'll cover. I would actually lean Arkansas plus the points to cover. But I'm very, very interested if they are ineffective running the ball again this late in the season. I don't know how much confidence you can possibly have leading towards the Iron Bowl and then eventually a game against Georgia in the SEC championship game if they win either of these games. So I'm going to go Alabama to win. I'm going to go Arkansas to cover. Jesse, I know I was supposed to start with that graphic, so let's loop it around to the end. We'll do that graphic at the very end. Let's go Iowa State at Oklahoma next. Oklahoma is a 3.5-point favorite. This is the big noon kickoff on Fox. This is Saturday, high noon Eastern time. I think there's some really good dynamics in play here for Oklahoma. I know a lot of people are on Iowa State this week. A lot of people are on Matt Campbell because they misunderstood what he said or don't get what he said. I don't really care about that. I already spoke my piece on that. But as for the game, you last saw Oklahoma reeling coming out of Baylor. And you last saw Iowa State. You probably didn't watch it last week. They lost too. I love the dynamics for Oklahoma here, as much as I would love to see Iowa State selfishly pull the upset. I love the dynamics. Oklahoma's due up. They are totally in wounded animal mode, pure desperation mode here. Their playoff lives are on the line. Could very well be that their Big 12 championship hopes are on the line the next couple of weeks. Also, it's a back-to-back road spot for Iowa State, and they lost all of their Big 12 championship hopes last week. And the model loves Oklahoma. It's one of our best bets of the week. We already tweeted it out earlier. If you're following, if not, we'll put it at the end of the show. But I expect the passing game to be better for Oklahoma this week. A more balanced attack, but I especially think that they'll have a little more success against the Iowa State secondary than they did Baylor last week. I'm going to take OU to win. We're actually taking OU minus 3.5. I don't think it's going to get down to 3. We're taking 3.5. It's one of our best bets of the week. I think Oklahoma bounces back this week. Michigan is on the road at Maryland. This game is going to be ignored. Not a lot of people are going to pay attention to it. They are 15-point favorites, or the Wolverines. It's a Saturday, 3:30 Eastern game. It's going to be off the national radar. It's on Big Ten Network. 3 things to watch for Michigan. Last tune-up before the game against Ohio State. Number 1, I want to know how well Maryland throws the ball against this secondary, because it's the last preview that we see from any kind of competent passing attack before Michigan has to face Ohio State. That's the first thing. Do they stone them, or does Maryland have some success through the air, maybe a little bit more than you're comfortable with? Second thing, how well does Michigan run the ball? It is going to be the key to their success in any game they play, but especially next week. They don't need to be peeling off 78 yards on the ground. They need to be 178, 225, something around that on the ground against Maryland. And also, not that we can quantify it, but is there any kind of look-ahead factor here? In fact, a number of these teams are in this position. The next game we're going to cover features a team in this position. So I've got Michigan winning. The model very slightly leans Maryland plus the points. I have no strong feel on that. We're going to go Michigan to win. Anything, I think, above 14.5, we lean Maryland plus the points. It is certainly not a best bet. Here's another team in potential look-ahead mode, and that is Oklahoma State, -10 on the road. Notice all these highly ranked teams on the road. Double-digit favorites, though, so no one's going to be paying much attention. Cowboys -10 at Texas Tech. It's a night game. It's 8 o'clock Eastern on Fox, or 7. I think it's 7 Eastern on Fox. Either way, it's nighttime. Sun will be down. Interesting matchup here. Oklahoma State has been excellent. I mean, excellent. I think probably the best team in the Big 12 at pressuring the quarterback. And in games against offenses like Texas Tech, you tend to have the crowbar theory in effect. The crowbar theory is when you get these inordinately disruptive defensive fronts, like Oklahoma State's, and you rely on a lot of timing and rhythm in your pass game, obviously, it tends to just crowbar you. It's like throwing a crowbar in the bicycle spokes. It doesn't slow you down. You either hum or you fall straight over the handlebars. Face street pizza, you know the metaphor. However, over the past few weeks, Texas Tech has had Donovan Smith at quarterback. Big kid, can fall forward for the first down, offers a little more balance, and offers a little more versatility in the offensive game on the ground than I think they had early in the year. And for that reason, as good as Oklahoma State looked last week, I'm actually a little concerned about it. Because, as you know, we made Oklahoma State one of our best bets last week. So a blowout against TCU is what we expected. We did not get anything unexpected. Now this week, the model looks at it and says Oklahoma State should be favored by about 7. So the same model that picked that picked the blowout last week, looks at this and says, wouldn't be shocked at an outright upset, think Oklahoma State wins, don't think they cover. So we're taking Oklahoma State to win, because there's also a potential look ahead here too. We're taking Oklahoma State to win 1 week before Bedlam, 1 week before they play OU, and we're taking Texas Tech plus the points. Not a best bet. These are just random picks. Cincy plays SMU Saturday. This is the last probably regular season shot, obviously, that Cincinnati's going to have to lose. They are 11.5-point favorites at home. They are currently the 5th-ranked team in the college football playoff. It's a Saturday game. It's 3:30 on ESPN. The model has this 37.5 to 30. It thinks Cincinnati wins by a little over a touchdown. Thinks the number's too big. It's been a while since Cincinnati flexed on anyone, and the model is taking that into account. All of the season baked in now. We're not taking anything preseason into account. Sonny Dykes, they've lost a few games there. There's a thought around the industry that Sonny Dykes still has his choice of a few jobs. I don't know that I agree with this all the time, but there is a thought that it is imperative he pull one of these games off. They've lost a couple, need to win one. And this would obviously be the giant feather in the cap. I'm saying all that to say don't worry about motivation. Don't worry about anything potentially being let out of the sails for SMU. They'll be ready. I actually think Cincinnati is going to lose this weekend. So not only am I going to take SMU to cover that 11.5, which I think may come down before kickoff, I think SMU is actually going to win the game outright. And it will be a situation where you may watch it, and if it goes down that way, you say, well, they flirted with this for about the past month. It's about time it finally happened. If this happens, the first team I'm going to look at is Notre Dame. Because all of a sudden, I don't think head-to-head is going to matter. Because I don't think the committee would look at these resumes and otherwise say they're even comparable. And so Notre Dame, again, shark fin out there. Going to talk about the Irish in a second. Notre Dame out there. If Cincy goes down, just keep an eye on that. Also, Jesse had a nice fancy graphic made. Check this out. If you're listening on podcast, this is one of the rare times where you truly lose not having the visual element. But I'm going to read it to you. All these teams listed here are in the top 15. You see the numbers corresponding right there. This is a treacherous weekend, guys. This could be a complete mushroom cloud of a weekend, and no one's paying attention to it because there's only one quote-unquote top 10 matchup. But Oregon is number 3 right now. They are a 3-point dog on the road at Utah. Ohio State and Michigan State obviously play each other, so inevitably a top 10 team falls there. Cincinnati, I just picked them to lose the game outright, but even if you don't think they're going to lose outright, look at that. That's an 11.5-point line, and they're at home. That's the number 5 team playing SMU. Michigan is on the road at Maryland. They're on the road the week before the biggest game of the year for them. They're a little over 2-touchdown favorite. Notre Dame's number 8. We love them against Georgia Tech, but that's still a dangerous game. They're only a 17-point favorite at home. Oklahoma State, think that's treacherous. They're a 10-point favorite on the road at Texas Tech. I'm not even out of the top 10 yet. Number 10, Wake Forest, is a 4.5-point underdog against Clemson. We're going to talk about that game more later. Baylor, number 11 in the country right now. They're a 1-point dog currently on the road at K-State. And number 13, Oklahoma, 3.5-point favorite versus Iowa State at home. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And that's 10 of the top 13 teams in the country that are in some form of a vulnerable position this weekend. This is a Renaissance season. There are no calm November Saturdays in Renaissance seasons. I know, because this is the first one we've lived through, essentially, since maybe 2007. Be very careful. Don't be thinking you've got a nice little window. I know our friends over at the Solid Verbal sometimes give you the window with which you can go out and get something done. It doesn't exist Saturday. Doesn't exist. There is no window of opportunity. There's just an opportunity for heartbreak. It's going to be a heartbreak Saturday. Favorite wrestler? The Heartbreak Kid. This could be Heartbreak Saturday. And we own the rights to that if it does happen.